you've been doing this for like 15 years now. So you're like,
Yeah.
you've been doing this for a lot longer than me. And for me, it was like really exciting in the beginning, but as time goes on, like I'm kind of, it's, it feels like I can't get as excited about talking about the same topics over and over. And like, it's
Mm.
like, it feels a little bit repetitive. Like, do you ever feel that way? Or how do you stay like excited about talking about the same topic like year after
Wow.
year after?
This is totally something that I'm dealing with right now because I think that when I first started being more present on social media, let's say I've been teaching for even more than 15 years, like almost 17 years, right? And then there was the actual work, but then I started developing my own theory and method, and then I started talking more publicly about it starting in 2018. And I remember that as I was speaking, I remember like developing an idea as I was speaking, and I remember how passionate I was about it. Like the excitement of discovering it while speaking, I think that brought a lot of joy to me when I was speaking, and obviously that created like this added layer of energy, and maybe that intrigued people. And now I've developed these concepts for quite a few years, and I've tackled it from all different angle. And I'm in this place where there's the audience that knows me really well, that has heard everything already.
Mm.
And they'll keep listening to me, but they've heard everything already. And I want to talk to them. But at the same time, I know that there are all these people who don't know these things that I need to get to. So I need to keep talking about these things. But also sometimes I feel like I'm boring myself, and it doesn't feel as fresh and exciting as it did at the beginning. And I know that this comparison is not great, but it's there. So it's
It's the exact same
definitely a
thing I'm going through.
conflict. And it's important, I bet. Like, and I think it's still an important message that you want to deliver. The question is, how are you going to do that in a way that
Yeah.
keeps you excited? So, what do you do to keep it fresh and exciting?
I don't know. I'm figuring that out. Like, but like I think you nailed it. Like I haven't thought of it in that sense, but yeah, like there's people who need to hear the basic things, the
Yeah,
basics. But they're also like my core audience have already heard me talk about the basics so many times. So
yeah. So, something that I do,
uh,
I try to stay creative within. So, I have different platforms in which I create content. I have YouTube, I have Instagram, social media, like the outer world. And I have my membership and my courses.
mm,
And I've made a lot of changes in my membership recently so that it would create more space for me to create new content. Like I made it impossible for me to just stay stuck with the same content. So I created a membership where every month I have to come up with different topics or different themes and to actually create
mm.
workshops. And I know it was scary at first, but then I said like I need to stretch myself to start creating content about stuff that are different than what I usually talk about. So that's where I explore more, and the risk is lower because it's my own membership. And, if one workshop is not as good as the other, it's not critical because there is still value in it. So I
Are
give
there new
myself,
people that come into
mhm,
the membership in the middle, or is
yes.
it like everybody? Okay.
Oh, so it's I do launches. So I don't do
Okay.
like open doors all the time because it's easier for me because I love bringing everyone in at the same time. But it like I pay
How
a
often
price
do you
for
do
it.
launch?
Yeah, so this is why, because I have another program that I do live launches for, so I need to kind of like organize it properly, and it ends up being twice a year, which is not enough
Okay.
for a membership. I should do more, but it's a capacity issue.
Hmm.
So ultimately, I think that I would end up creating some kind of a funnel so that I wouldn't be live launching it, but it's also not always open so that only people who are a right fit would get the offer to
Hmm.
join, so that I would keep bringing people in, and then that would That
Well,
would
the
kind of
reason
like
why I
work in the
ask is because I'm having this issue of, because mine's like open. So what happens is when new people come in, there's like a difference between like the ones that's been in there for 2 years, so they know everything, they know all the ins and outs and
yeah.
like all the basics, and then the new people are kind of lost. So it's like hard
Mm,
to, if I'm giving assignments every week, it's hard for them to kind of, maybe like some of them are too easy for the older members, and so like meanwhile, like if I try something new, it's kind of like then the new members are kind of lost. So I'm having
yeah.
that.
I feel like with new members, and I know exactly what you're talking about, there needs to be like a different onboarding experience. Like there needs to,
Mhm.
like, I don't think that they can be thrown in to any membership
Maybe like a
and
course or something.
discover maybe like a course or maybe like a parallel experience. That's ideally what I want to create. Like almost as if I duplicate the platform, but they only see a limited
Ah,
they
okay,
only
got it,
have
got it.
limited access to some of the sessions, so it's kind of like slowly
The
I start
basics, yeah.
introducing them. Yeah, so they build the habit, they don't get overwhelmed, because overwhelm is a big thing for members, especially when it comes to content that they're missing. For me, it's every session is different, so I don't need them to have the prerequisite knowledge, but I
Mm.
think for you it's important for them to know that. How do they
Yeah,
manage to catch up ultimately?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what I have an online course there. So if you
Mm.
join, like I tell them to
Mhm.
do the online course first, which I call it storytelling basics. So I
Mm.
cover all the basics in there, but most people don't do it. You know how it
Yeah,
is.
they don't. Yeah. I know.
So
We
so
do
that's what I'm struggling
orientation
with. Yeah.
sessions. There is like
Oh
a
yeah, yeah,
clear
we do that too. Yeah.
checklist. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But like I
Um,
would say about a third of the people go to the orientation, and I mean, yeah, I try to make it work, but yeah, it's tough. But
yeah.
I'm figuring it out. So I
I
wanted to
think
kind of like ask you like how you do it. Yeah.
so. I think it definitely requires the old members to be aware of the new members and to facilitate the content. So we have the team doing that, but we also have hosts in groups, that they know that new members
The
are coming and
OGs.
they do a good.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, the OGs. And they welcome the people, and we try to. That's the good thing about launching and bringing everyone in at the same time. You can plan the content around it. So I'm not going to do
Mm-mm.
something too difficult or too challenging or too overwhelming. I'm not going to do like a 30-day video challenge on the
Yeah.
month that everyone's joining, but I would do it, like in a different month when I know that people are more experienced.
Are there some basic things that everyone in your community kind of has to go through, like some sort of a basic training, like basics that they have to learn?
No. N-
Okay.
Well, they need to know the action items, like the what they need to do to move up the success path. So there is a success path. They identify their speaking stage because it's a program for building fluency and confidence in English.
Mm.
Um, of
Like
course, it's not just
speaking.
about that. It's like speaking confidence, but it's also like a personal development program in disguise, right? Like English is the
Mm-mm.
tool to help people make positive changes in
That's
their
so
lives.
funny. Like how when did you realize that it's also like a personal development program?
I guess it happened simultaneously with my personal growth, where I realized that as a business owner, to be able to grow, I needed to work on my mindset and productivity and all these other aspects. And then um, I started coaching my students, and then I got certified as a life coach. And I'm like, it's more, because if you want to really engage people, like if you
Mm.
want them to do the work, you need to take into consideration habits. You need to take into consideration their objections and their mindset and the limitations that they're going to have. And you want to help them solve that and not just the language, right? And when you help them feel better about themselves, then they know that it's connected to the program and what they do. So they show up and they learn better, and then they get results. So it's all interconnected. And I think that for me, this is what makes it more meaningful. Like you asked, how do you stay
I
connected to
see.
what you
Yeah,
do?
yeah. That I
And
can
I feel like,
resonate. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, like I know you guys do that as well, because you get very personal and vulnerable in your community. And I think that
Do you
for
sell
me,
it that way? Like when you sell the
I've
membership or
been
when you
I
sell your programs? Yeah.
it's I first talk about the language, like about English and speaking confident, and because I'm not going to be able to attract the right people, because there are English classes, but they're also, you know, mindset coaching.
Mm.
So I do put it in the copy and the messaging. I definitely talk about an environment to thrive, and I explain why they need it. Um, but also, usually, the people who land on my page, they're already like warm leads. That like I've done a challenge where I address some of these challenges, and they got to know me and my team and my community. You know, like, and I've done all these different things that they already know what I'm about, and what matters. You know.
Yeah, because they're already. I mean, they're familiar with your content, so they're already kind of. They probably already expect it's gonna be like that, right? Like that. There's gonna be
Yes. Yes.
when you
Like they're
like.
not gonna, yeah, they're not gonna see me making fun of people making mistakes in English, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk to other creators or other coaches or the teachers like that, do you? I this is like a pattern that I notice is like whether they're a fitness coach or like English teacher like you or somebody who teaches marketing or business. Like at the end of the day, ultimately it ends up being like a personal development or like a lot of mindset type of programs. And my program is exactly like that too.
Yeah.
Uh, Go ahead.
Because I think people crave that. Like for me, I think the first thing, even before all of that, is a community. Because I, you know, my brand is based on my community. I have a free community. I have I have a community with my courses. Just recently we did a community meetup in Barcelona, and we had over almost like 100 people come from all around the world to meet each other. Like
Yeah, I
that
saw
is
that.
the one thing. But again, like you don't that's not a selling point, right? Like I'm not going to say, "Hey, sign up to be a part of this most incredible community." Like they don't
Mm.
know they need it. And that's why I can't tell them, "Oh, that's what you need." But the moment they come in and they feel it, then I know. This is why it's like just get them inside, and then they'll see what else is happening there. This is why I don't highlight as much the mindset. That's like an added value, and that's what keeps them there rather than brings them in.
Is that the part that you get more excited about? Like the community and the mindset and stuff like that more
Yeah.
than the
I'm excited about, yeah. And more than what?
actual like teaching English. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, specifically teaching English, I've taught all the sounds. Like
uh,
I teach pronunciation, right? Like I've taught it 5,000 million billion
uh,
times. So yeah, absolutely. I'm all about the transformation, right? Like in providing people with circumstances and environment that would not have it possible and for them unless they joined, right? Like and to expose them to content. For example, like now we're planning um our October our October content, and it's about creativity. So each month we have a different topic. And I have a friend who has a PhD in arts, and you know, she's going to come and speak, and so they're going to be exposed to this incredible knowledge, and she's going to talk about contemporary art. And it's not like they signed up for it, but it's going to be in English. It's going to challenge them. And then at the end, they're going to say, huh. And I also learned something that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to engage with such content because it's not something that is,
Mm,
like that is a part of their day-to-day life necessarily. Not everyone, but a lot of people. Or not just that, like different concepts and ideas that I bring either, me or with other coaches, other people. So I feel like that is what I love most about this. The transformation, seeing that people create better circumstances for themselves for whatever reason, whether it's the English or the community or the sense of confidence that they get, or just, making a positive impact in one area in their lives. And then that makes them have, like, it has a
mm.
ripple effect on their lives, whatever that is. I don't care
I
as
guess
long
like,
as
yeah,
they, yeah.
that's kind of what I'm going through now, and it sounds like you've kind of like you enjoyed that part, and for me, I feel like for the last like couple years, I've been so focused on I need to teach these people how to tell stories and make content and like make carousels and things like that. And what ends up happening is when they come in, what they actually love, people who stay, what they love is the community and the aspect of
Community.
like, because like when we make carousels or when they do storytelling, whether it's video or written story, like there are certain skills that they have to practice within the community. Like for example, like being vulnerable or putting yourself in someone else's shoes, like having that empathy or like understanding their weaknesses. Like all of these things they have to be aware of in order to tell stories. So they love that personal development part more.
But
And it's
but
just
here's
almost
the
like they're
thing. I don't think they'd be able to improve their storytelling technique or skills or become more vulnerable unless they were in a community that allows them to do that. Like, it's interconnected. So
yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah,
watch an online course about storytelling, a masterclass or something, and then like you take what you can, but you don't put it into practice. And to put it into practice is to sell a story in front of someone looking at you, thinking, here's what they're thinking about me, and still telling it, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that is the skill that they're developing, not just how to tell a story, but being able to tell the story in front of people and being open to do that. And like,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the same
yeah.
for me. Like, if you want to improve your confidence and fluency in English, yeah, you can practice with a robot here, like, and pay €5 a month. But if you're able to do that with a real human being and listen to others and hold space for others, you develop the skill of speaking in front of others and building the confidence and managing your judgment and being vulnerable and being authentic, right? But you need
Yeah,
a community for that. So that's why one doesn't work without the other.
yeah, and that what you explained is exactly what I'm starting to see, and I need to accept that. Because right now, like for example, if somebody joins and I don't see them, let's say, posting content or posting stories or something like that, I get a little frustrated. I'm like, oh, this isn't working because they're not translating this into like,
Mm,
even though they are, because we have small groups. So what
right.
we do is like I'll give them a prompt, like this week's prompt was, what's something in your life that you're avoiding right now, and then like we kind of try to follow them through, like, okay, what's the worst case that can happen and what would you do, like, so to try to help them discover their fears or something like that, and then they'll go in their small group and share it and talk about it. But like what I ultimately want them to do is turn that into a story, right? And then they like post it on social media.
But there are steps.
Yeah,
Like, that's
yeah.
the thing. They have to build the confidence and, like, even trusting themselves that they can tell a story. And they need to be able to do that somewhere. And then they
Yeah,
minimize the
yeah,
gap
yeah, yeah.
between where they are and where they want to be. But I think this is so incredibly valuable. And maybe, like, that is the success path that you need for your community members, that they know that it's not like join and then the following week you start posting videos. But no, join and then you understand how to tell a story, and then you build confidence in how you're able to show up in front of others sharing your
Oh, I
story,
see what you mean.
and then
Yeah,
maybe a bigger, and then in front of a bigger group, and then maybe translate it into a video or a post or whatnot, which is kind of like, that's the biggest fear, because then
yeah,
you
that's
don't
the
have
end.
people
Yeah.
in
That's
front of
the
you.
end goal. And
Yeah.
I think I've been so focused on the end goal that I've been kind of frustrated at the, like, do you ever feel that way? Like you have students join and things like that, and you know, I don't know. Maybe it's not even logical for me, but let's say somebody comes in and they're doing the work. Yes, they're doing the work, but then like they'll share a story, and I'm like, oh, like this story is so far from where it needs to be, and I get impatient, and I'm like trying to like show them, how to fix it or something like that. But obviously, like that's not scalable, so I kind of get impatient, and so then I start thinking like, oh, this isn't working, like, you know,
You take
like
you
so
take
many times.
responsibility for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep thinking like, oh my
Um,
gosh, there's something wrong with this program. It's not working. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, and I think that like that feedback is important, and that's what they join for it. Like, and I think
Mhm.
also if we think of the success path, they need it, like a certain number of
How long is
times
that
where
path?
they get that feedback. Well, you need to look at your community and see behaviors, right? Because it's very common that people who join a community, they're just observing at the beginning, and then they take very, very small actions. It's rare that people would come in and start posting and be very active. They need to build trust with the platform, with the community, you know, and so they take very, very small steps. And I think that is maybe where you can guide them more about not asking them to do big things, but to do small things.
Mm,
And then you'll see that more things get done according to the
yeah.
manual, because that is the nature of people. Like they need to observe, they need to build trust with like small steps until they become more vulnerable. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the story is good or not. They first of all they told it, and also it's I understand
Yeah,
your
I think that's
feedback
where
is
my problem is.
critical,
I'm
but
I'm
yeah,
I'm being
what is it?
I'm being maybe a little bit too harsh on the new members. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Like most people, it takes a while because sometimes like I'm like, oh, you know these these people join, but they haven't come to any of the Sunday sessions and blah blah blah. But then sometimes people will show up out of nowhere after 6 months or something. Like
So I guess
it's
that is the question. Like, what do the numbers say? Like, how long? What's the lifespan of a member? That's the first question, or the churn rate. Like, these are numbers that could tell you if people are if they get
uh,
scared and they quit quickly, or they're like, I'm in it for the long haul.
I mean, like ours is very low ticket, so people do stay. But I
Oh,
don't know if
I
there's.
don't. People don't like paying, so they stay not because it's low ticket. Because mine is also not very expensive, and there were times where the membership was not as as um
Oh, really?
essential, like as good as it is now in terms of the
Uh-huh.
content. Like they didn't get that, they didn't feel like they get all the value that they needed, or it wasn't specific for them, even though it had a ton of content, a ton of value, but it
Mm-mm.
was they just didn't they felt like they were out of the loop,
It's not like.
and people don't want to pay even if it's $7. So
Wait, so what's the thing that makes them feel like they're out of the loop, and then how do you get them back in the loop?
too much content,
Okay,
so they feel like they
that's
can't.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, if there's too much content, then it's kind of like I don't know where to start. And membership shouldn't feel like an intensive course, and you want to give them a lot, but also it's if you give them too
What do
much
you consider too much content?
generosity. um Too much content is that they have to invest how it depends, because it really depends on the person, but a lot to choose from at a given moment. Okay. Not even too much
Uh,
content, but like a lot to choose from. So there is this course and this session and this session and that session. I don't think that's the case for you because you have one course and then the weekly
So I
task.
do a live call every Sunday,
Right. That's not a
and
lot.
then we have
The
small
small,
groups that they can join. Yeah. So
and they have a
like
weekly task.
yeah, so on Sundays I give them a prompt or I give them an
Hmm.
assignment,
Yeah.
and then they work on that in their small group.
Yeah. Sounds very reasonable. So for me,
And
like
then
it
there's
used,
replay for everything.
yeah.
So maybe that's
And
maybe
is,
that's a
how
little bit
long is the
overload.
course?
The Sunday session
No,
or
because you
the
said that they
basic
have a
course?
course,
Yeah.
the basic course.
The basic course is about 2 hours, but it's meant to be done over 11 weeks.
Yeah. To me, it's not like it's not surprising that, people stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't think that like the life, because sometimes I feel like it's not enough, or am I giving enough? Do you ever feel that way? Like I'm always like feel like I need to give more.
No, because I
And
have the opposite problem. I give too much. This is why I'm talking out of pain of like I have
yeah.
to cut down to make sure that I don't. And it's also hard because I have students from all around the world and we have mainly live classes. So I have students from Australia and students from California and the US and Europe,
Oh, you have live
and South
classes too?
Africa. And yeah, most of my program is based on my membership because I have a course that is, pre-recorded, and my membership is just live classes and in conversation groups. And you want to
Oh,
offer
so
a
it's
lot.
like very
So
similar to what I do. Like so they have like small
yeah.
groups and then okay.
Yeah, and I think the groups we've been doing it since day one by coincidence because we wanted them to speak and like we couldn't have enough coaches to 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 organize these groups, so we started taking members who were very passionate about it and they organized those conversation groups, and that was like the biggest community builder ever because they just made connections online.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing
That's the
about
same for
Zoom
us.
calls
Hmm.
is that you are like there's no bullshit, like there isn't a lot of time to talk about, like there's usually not a lot of small talk, like they get to
Hmm.
the conversation topic right away, and usually these are conversation topics that require them to show up, and to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And I think it's, especially if
Do
you
you
guys.
have hard time like
Mm,
do most people go to those conversation groups?
yeah, yeah, we
And do
do.
they do
Not
everyone
most,
share?
not
Yeah.
most.
Okay.
We do breakout rooms. So, for example, it's easier because then we break them into small groups. So, it's a big group at the beginning. They give the topic, maybe background information if they need, and then they break them into smaller groups of two,
Okay,
three
got it. Okay.
people. And then they switch in case, like you have bad chemistry with someone or you want to
Yeah.
meet as many people as possible. But we also encourage them to connect one on one outside of the conversation group. So, we created a place where they can easily book one-on-one calls with each other, and we moved to a platform that allows them to chat with each other.
What do
I
you
think the
use for the platform?
platform, I just switched to Mighty Networks,
Oh,
which,
okay.
and we
I
have
heard
our
of
own
that.
app, so it's kind of like this is where
Oh,
I'm going to
that's
host
nice.
I'm going to host all my courses there. And it's nice because the community aspect is highlighted. um
Was it
so I
hard to
mean, it's
like
not.
move everything over?
That's a good question. So the answer is yes, always, and to migrate people and to convince them to move.
Yeah.
I
And get
think
them
it's
to use
also
it.
like,
Yeah.
listen, like nothing's gonna be as good as Facebook groups in terms of the features, especially my community that uses videos all the time. So it's like so intuitive on Facebook, and you can you have all those features, and you can comment, and you can and Mighty Network does a good job. Networks does a good job, but not like it's not Facebook. So my
Mhm.
members who were very active on Facebook, they felt like it was a
Mhm.
downgrade. But at the same time, I had a lot of students who weren't on Facebook, so they were missing out on this community aspect.
Mhm.
And I do like that everything is in one place. Also, instead of one platform
Yeah.
for the content, and one is the calendar with Zoom links, and one is Facebook group. Now it's all in one place, and I feel like engagement is a lot higher because of that.
Oh, really? More than Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
No, not the community engagement, but the content engagement. So we see a higher show up rate
Oh,
for
okay,
Zoom
got it,
calls
got it.
because it's easy to see where it's at and to RSVP and all of that. And lives, especially, like if I go live inside the platform, then it's a lot higher because they don't have distractions. So when I go live on
Mm-mm.
Facebook, think about it, like they have notifications and they kind of like click on it. But if they're in the app, they're there. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that has
Yeah,
been
the Zoom
nice.
thing is so important. Like for us, one of the things that I realized is that like once somebody comes, because like I said,
Hmm.
like they might join, and like you said, like a lot of them are lurkers, right? They're not
Yeah.
necessarily like uh, getting involved yet. Go ahead. Did you want to say
No,
something?
no, because I'm like, I think the because I just thought of like when you said that, like the lurkers, and I think the people who are scared who come in, and what you're requesting them to do is really like it's so
Yeah,
big
it's a
and so
huge step.
demanding. Yeah, it's a huge step. Like I really see how that could be disheartening for people. Not disheartening, but why they would avoid for a while.
So, what would be the like if you were me? What would be like the mini steps that you would put to get
Do
them
they
from
have a
lurkers to
what's the platform that you use? Circle?
circle? Yeah,
Yeah. So they have like a community feed there?
yeah.
Okay. Do they
But I
introduce
haven't been like
themselves?
I haven't been really. I should focus more on the community feed. We used to back then, and then I kind of like dropped the ball on that one because I've
Mhm.
been trying to like push everybody to go to Zoom. So, because we used to have people like post their stories there, and then like people give feedback, but I kind of like
Mhm.
stopped that.
Maybe for beginners, this would be an easier way to get
Hmm.
started.
Yeah,
You
yeah, that
know,
people have been asking
maybe
for it,
they
like
have.
people because they we used to do it, and people have been like, oh, like you know, like can we bring that back?
But is it a lot of work for isn't it a lot of work for you to give feedback on the stories in the feed?
No, I don't give feedback. They so it we have small group leaders like your
Oh yeah,
OGs,
yeah.
so they
Mhm.
know the program inside out. So like what I've been switching to is like they'll come to the small group, and usually small group is like 5 6 people, so they'll share their story, and then they'll give each other feedback. And because the small group leader is there, the leader can kind of guide like if it's going the right way or not.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing on the platform, so you can just post your story there, and other people can give feedback through comments.
Mhm.
But it felt a little for me. It felt a little bit over, even though I wasn't reading and commenting on all of them. It felt a little bit overwhelming because I felt like anybody who's used on the platform, like the feed keeps going, like people adding like stories after stories, and like it was just like if you
It's
are
I
like
don't
coming to the feed, it was like they were seeing new
too
stories
much.
come in like yeah all the time, yeah.
Mm. Mm.
But I mean,
Like I
maybe
like
that's just
feed
okay. Yeah.
engagement. I don't think that comes instead of what happens on Zoom. I think that just strengthens the connections and the and again, like you know what they say when you post on social media, you say like there are the people on LinkedIn and there are the people on Instagram and there are the people on TikTok, and like usually you'll find different
Hmm.
audiences. They're not going to necessarily watch your content on all platforms.
Yeah.
And it's like there will be the people who will be more active on Zoom, and there will be the people who will be more active in the feed. And it's good to have both because
Yeah.
you will have different people who have different habits, who like different things. And some people might
Also,
be
not
like just,
everybody's gonna read every story, so
yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe I was overthinking it because I was thinking like, if like there's like 10 stories being added every day, like how are people going to
Hmm.
catch up with that? But they They don't have to read
I
every
don't,
story.
they don't have to read every
Yeah.
story. And, and I think also it's like okay, so how do you it's really about fighting for people's attention. So it's a good exercise for those writing it. It's kind of like, how can I make it
Mm-hmm.
even
That's true.
better so that I get more, I call my community members content creators inside our community. We have a podcast,
Mm.
they post videos, and they've improved
Oh,
so
that's really
much
cool.
as content creators in the community.
In
And
the
they're like
private community.
celebrities
Yeah.
in the private community. So they're like the top members who are very,
Oh,
very
that's really.
present.
Oh, that's really smart. Actually, it's you're creating like a mini social network within there.
Exactly. Exactly. And I give them a lot of, this is why we created the podcast, right? Like, so they create their own episodes and then they promote them in the feed, right? And then they talk about it in their groups and people go and listen to the podcast. Um, I think it's a good
Like
thing. And then especially for people who want this to be content creators at the end of the day, or whatever they
they
need it
can just
for,
repost it in there. Yeah.
they need the feedback.
Uh,
And
uh, uh,
feedback
yeah,
is
yeah,
sometimes also no one's commenting because
yeah, yeah,
it's not, the hook is not good enough.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually because that was happening for us too. Like some people will post their story and like get 20 comments, and some people will post their story and get like, and it also depends on how active they are in the community as well. So
Yeah, exactly. If people know them when they
yeah,
posted it. And this is why, like, with that, I also remind everyone, especially when we have video challenges, you're not doing it for the comments. Sometimes you won't be seen. That is okay. Just keep posting. Be prolific, And I
mm-hmm,
think that what you can do is like, first of all, share that weekly prompt, because not everyone's in the small groups either. Probably not
mm-hmm.
everyone shows
Yeah,
up
most
and
people are
everything.
not.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
so they
yeah,
have an opportunity.
that's what I was gonna say. What I noticed is that once somebody is in a small group and they share in a small group, because like that's actually a minority of the people. Most
Hmm.
people actually, first of all, lurk. They
Yeah,
might never come to us. They might never join a small group,
yeah.
and then some people will join a small group but won't share yet. But I noticed that once they start sharing, that's that's like a clear sign. It's a clear indicator that they're going to stay for the long run. And the second thing is once they give feedback to somebody sharing, that's another clear indicator that they're so the
Mm,
ones who share and the ones that give feedback in the small group,
they're
usually they're hooked. Like once
Yes.
they've done that.
So
And
the question is, how do you get them to do that?
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I've been
Not how
trying to
you
figure
get them.
out.
That's what you need to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, a thought that came to mind. Um, those who don't join the small groups, do they know what's happening in them just by you talking about it, right?
Yeah, so you won't really it's kind of like what you said before, like you won't really know it until you're there, and you
What
won't
if
even really
you
know. Yeah,
What if you record one of the sessions, ask them to record people who are very, very experienced, and then you share that in the feed as a video? Just
yeah, that's true.
again,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
because there is like this fear around, I don't want to join. It's going to be too scary. It's the spotlight
yeah,
is going to be on me. I don't want to be with five people. So sometimes when they see it, it's kind of like, oh, it's actually not that bad because they have ideas about how it should be. So it's
yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
you need to think
Like a
what is the
sample.
friction?
Yeah,
Where is the friction? How do you eliminate it, right? Or what is the fear? The fear is, oh, it's this and that. Oh no, it's
yeah.
actually this. Okay,
There's a
next.
lot. There's that. Oh man, like I don't want to be on the like I don't want to be put in the spot to share like or something
Mhm.
like that. Right? There's that, and then
Mhm.
there's the there's always the time thing. I don't have time thing. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
like
yeah.
few different ones,
Which needs to
but
be addressed as well. Like,
yeah,
this is what we talk about when this is why we put habits in, like,
yeah,
as a big part of our training. Cause if they don't build the habit, they're not going to do the work. Right. And then they're going to quit. So I
So
want
how
them
do
to.
you inspire or motivate people to do that? Like actually
So
to
first
kind
of
of be
all,
accountable.
I'm
Is
going to
there
tell
like
you, but I had a
accountable?
thought that I
Yeah.
don't want to forget.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget it. What if you say that the first 5 sessions that you're in, or the first 3 sessions, if that's an objection, you don't share stories. You only respond to people. Like that's how you build
Mm,
confidence, right? So you say, like,
that's
it's not,
good.
even if you want to
Yeah.
share, you don't like first 3 sessions, you observe, if you want, you can give feedback.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
No, that's
like they
good.
don't even
Yeah,
feel
they don't
like,
feel pressured. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
They can lurk in the small group.
Exactly. I'm inviting you
Yeah.
to lurk. Even say it straight up.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're not joining because you're afraid of being in the
Yeah.
spotlight. This is why, if you join, you're not gonna.
Hmm.
What do I do? I created. So the idea for me is to get them to do something every day related to English. So I created sprints, which is a 10-minute daily pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary practice. I record it. It's very intensive. It's like a workout, and there is a different one every day. It's like we have 110, and they love it. Why?
It's like a
Because it's an
challenge.
easy accomplishment. First of all, it's somewhat of a challenge, but it's 10 minutes. It's limited. They hit play. They don't have to think. They don't need to, like, what do I do now? They have a Monday sprint, Tuesday sprint, Wednesday sprint. They have a different one for every weekday. So that's an
Do
easy.
they get an email or something
It's in
with
the
the?
platform. So like a
Oh, okay,
no
okay, got
sprint
it, got it.
unlocks every
Got it.
day, and they just need to do that. So it gives them a sense of accomplishment, even if they just spend 10 minutes in the day. It creates engagement with the platform. If they're already there, they might check this or check that. Um, but it's a sense of achievement, and also it's helpful. So they feel the impact it has. It's only 10
Mm,
minutes, and they build the habit because it's fun. And then when they build the habit, it's kind of like, okay, like they're going to open the app and they're going to do something there. And
mm,
that creates, like that create. So we have daily, weekly, and monthly action items. We say, like, if you want to move up the success path, you need to take daily, weekly, and monthly action. So the daily is the daily sprints, 10 minutes a day, right? So that doesn't require a lot of time. And we say, like, if you only do that for a week or a month, that's perfectly fine. You're still doing the work. You're still building a habit. Because we need to let go of the guilt that is associated with this, with anything really. And then weekly is like to show up for a conversation group and a lesson. So it's like an hour here and half an hour or an hour here. And then monthly is related to the monthly content that we share. So it's like we
got it.
make it stupid simple.
Yeah, I think I really like the dailies because I feel like if we can get people to do that. It's
Yeah.
also like yeah, for me to get them in the small group is so important because I noticed, like, remember, like I told you, like, for me, you ever done yoga or
Hmm.
so, like, when you look at yoga, like most people, you can't really teach people or show people the value of yoga. Like, there's really
Mm.
no way for you to sell yoga. You just have to get them to do it for like a month, and then at the
Yeah.
end of the month, they'll get it. You know what I mean? And I feel
Yeah.
like our small groups are kind of like that. I can't really explain it in words. You just have to go experience it. And then
Yeah.
once you experience it, once you share it, you'll get it. Like, you know what I mean?
What if, like, also maybe something to look into is if there is friction in the sign up process. So another thing that
Oh
could
yeah, yeah,
prevent
yeah. There is, yeah,
people.
yeah.
So that would, like, if someone is hesitant and they try and then something happens, then they're probably not going to try
One thing
again
that I'm
until
gonna,
much later.
yeah, one thing that I'm gonna test out next month is to do a breakout in the like first week of every month, first
Hmm.
Sunday service of every month. I'm gonna do a breakout so that it's kind of like a little mini small group meeting within the
Yeah.
Sunday service, so they get a little
Mhm.
kind of taste of it, so
Mhm.
that, and
Yes.
then like try to get
That's a
them to
great idea.
after that. Yeah, like if
Yes.
especially if those breakout groups are being led by small group leader. And that's another thing I realize. It's like the people are so important. Like if somebody's like, oh, I really like this person, like I
Yeah.
really kind of like,
Yeah.
as a person, like as a friend, I really like the small group leader, then it's much more likely for that person to join that small group or something like that.
Yeah. How do they sign up now
For the small group.
to the small groups? Mhm.
So we had them like, so in our circle we have, there's event calendar. So every small group
Mhm.
meeting is on there.
Oh.
So wherever they want to go to, which one ever, they can just RSVP. But I noticed that nobody does that, and I think it has
Mm.
one. I think it's because of overwhelm, like because there's like 20 different choices. Like
Mm.
they're not sure which one is the right one for them, and they don't want
Mhm.
like it. They don't. I don't know why I said you can go to all of them if you want, but nobody does.
Mhm.
So one thing that does help is now we have them fill out a form um, on like type. We made a form on like type form, and they
Mhm.
just type in what days they're available, what times they're available, and a few basic information. And like Gigi would just match them up like
Mm.
manually with the small group,
But they don't
and like
necessarily
more
show
people.
up.
Yeah. One that like that's just hurdle number one. Like once you do that,
Yeah.
I would say about a third of those people actually show up to the small group. And
Mm.
then out of those people, I would say most of them stop showing up after like 2 or 3 meetings
Mm.
unless they share. And
Mm.
that's why I said the sharing is so important, because
Oh.
something happens, something clicks in their brain once they share a story.
Mm.
Something changes. And I think it's because like one, they're being vulnerable, right? When you share a story, that's vulnerable
Yeah.
automatically. And then as soon as you do that, like the small group will, now they heard their story. So now I know something about you. And then
Mhm.
like some sort of a communication then starts happening. They're like, oh my gosh, I remember like, and there's something about that they like. And if that like, I don't know, it's like once that happens, it's game over. Like, you know.
It's yeah, it's like love and at first sight. Um, it's something that I noticed is that sometimes video, putting yourself on video, makes has the same impact. People feel connected
Oh, really?
to others,
Even
or
if they don't
they
share. Yeah.
no. So they might, like, let's say you give them a prompt and you say make a video of
Oh,
yourself
like
telling
pre-recorded.
that
Okay,
story.
got it, got it.
Pre-recorded video, right? Like, so they
Yeah.
could maybe throughout the week, you can get them to share in other ways if they're not willing to do it in the group. And then instead of just writing a story, they could post a video and see
Mm,
what happens in sometimes people, introverts especially, because I'm like
mhm.
that, would feel more confident in front of a camera, even though they
That's
might
true.
like 200 people might watch it
Yeah,
versus speaking to 5 people.
yeah. Or like what you said before about like maybe have them share a written story first,
Yes.
get them comfortable like sharing their written story first,
Yeah.
and then maybe a video, and then finally like
But it's
continue
also
with
like
the
a
group.
messaging. Like if you have a checklist of what you want your new members to do. So let's say you
Hmm.
want them to like post a story, then maybe you can even have the prompts inside the checklist, and then
Yeah,
post the
yeah,
video,
yeah.
sign up, and then keep communicating it every week. Is like, did you sign up for, because
Mm.
people forget, and sometimes we think, okay, we told them once at the beginning, but they don't.
Actually,
They're so
that's huge.
overwhelmed.
Like what you said. Yeah, like the
Yeah,
repetition of that, like the reminders,
they don't do it.
and then breaking it down into the smallest steps. Like I noticed that that's so important. Yeah, we're not
Yes.
really good at that yet. Like our
Yeah,
assignments
so
are very broad.
several emails, several emails. Each email is like very clear on what
Mm,
their next step is.
yeah.
And if you want them to do one thing, that is, let's say,
Do you ever
to
feel
join.
like when you break it down into that small tiny step instruction, do you ever feel like you're like dumbing everything down for them?
I am. And I think it's good because
Okay.
people are like their attention span is
Mhm,
like this, especially when they get emails. And
mhm,
so, like, you have to spell it out sometimes. And still, sometimes I make something so clear. And then they come to us and it's like, I don't know where the login link is. And I'm like,
mhm.
it's right in front of you with arrows pointing at it, saying, click this before
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. No,
So,
I meant more like the assignment itself. Like
mm,
sometimes I want to make a. Sometimes I want to do a very open-ended assignment where
mm,
I say, I might say something like, think of a time when you have felt betrayed,
mm,
and like, and then I'll make it very open ended. It's not like
yeah,
very
yeah.
straight, like step one, do this, step two, do it. Like it's a very open ended assignment where I want them to kind of in the small group discover, see where that goes, and things like that. And like
If
whenever I do that,
mhm.
people don't do the assignment.
They need to build trust and confidence. Like especially at the
Yeah.
beginning, you gotta like they gotta reach to the low hanging fruit, which is the easiest thing for them to talk about without a lot of risk, without risking it being too vulnerable.
Hmm.
But again, like they build the habit of being able,
Yeah.
the behavior, not the habit. They create the behavior of them sharing a story in front of others. Because for most people, that's brand new, right?
Yeah, first it has to be
And
like a
then
non-vulnerable story that they share.
right. And easy to
Yeah,
access without
yeah,
like the fear of judgment
yeah,
of, oh, that's a bad story or
yeah.
you know.
Talk about the best meal you've had in your life. Something like that.
Yeah. Or what are you good at? Or like people
Yeah.
love talking about themselves and like,
Oh yeah. Like
what is your
or you know
hidden
what people
talent,
love? Like
guilty
if
pleasure.
I yeah,
Mhm.
people love like identities. So if I say, are you an introvert or extrovert, or like those type of
For
things, like yeah, like
yeah.
people
For
love those kind of
example,
things. Yeah.
today it was raining and I made a video for my community and I said like I hate umbrellas. I'm such a like I'm not an umbrella person. I rather get wet because I lose it and like inside. And I was like, are you an umbrella person or not? Or not? Like who are you? I
Yeah.
need to know. And I posted it and it was like genuine. Like I really wanted to know.
Yeah.
And we just launched, so we have a lot of new members, and all of a sudden like I saw all these new people commenting on my video and I was like, I've never seen them, and it was easy for them because like they identified with
Yeah.
something and that was like not too risky,
Yeah.
right, to admit that you're an umbrella person or not. So I think i'm I also don't think that you need to make it superficial, but also, like make it fun,
That's a
make it,
good one.
yeah,
Yeah. Because like it's not like an obvious one. Like introvert extrovert is like the common one that everybody already talks about, right? The umbrella or no
yeah,
umbrella thing is not as
yeah,
obvious.
yeah.
And then like when you say it, because as you were saying that, I'm like, oh, I'm like that too. I hate it. Like I hate
I
carrying
hate it.
umbrellas. Like
I did like,
so
and then Gil
uh,
told me go buy an umbrella. I was like, I would rather just give someone 10 euros than buy
yeah,
an umbrella for 3 years. Like,
yeah.
I will not spend money on it.
Because
Like,
then
I'm so
once it stops raining, you gotta carry it around with you. Like I don't.
I know. And then you're gonna lose it, and then you're gonna need it again, and you're gonna have to buy another
Yeah.
one. Let me just get wet, okay?
So yeah, exactly. Like so because it tells you something about your personality. So that's a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah, or something you've like I've never
Yeah,
thought about it this way, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind of like,
yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yeah, I gotta start small like that. Like have them share a small story like that, and then I think that's a really good idea.
exactly. Like I think small wins that are easy, like low hanging fruit, something that doesn't require a lot of energy, is so is undervalued, I think, because we want to see the
Hmm.
big results. Also for us, for
Hmm.
our ego, for like I want to see the
Yeah, that's
transformation.
like
I
the thing.
want
Like
like
for
that
me,
one
yeah, as a teacher,
to hear that good
I've
story.
every
Hmm.
time like I don't see like big transformation. If because especially because I have seen transformations within the community of people. I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, like that feels so good, right? When you see somebody who's like
Yeah,
just got it, and they're like, ah, like it's really like transformed their life. And obviously, there's like a small percentage of people that are like that in the community. And I feel like once I've seen that, I set the bar so high that like
Yeah.
I need everybody in my community to be like that, or I fail. That's like that's where I
Yeah.
get impatient.
It's like we always measure it according to us. Like
Mm.
what would success look like for us? Like if I did that, would it mean something big? And the thing is that for some people, simply staying in the membership and like even lurking is a huge achievement,
Hmm.
because they don't feel
And I
inspired
noticed
by
that
anything.
some people need like 6 months, even a year of lurking, and sometimes they're still learning by lurking.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
like out of like they'll lurk and they'll do it for months. Like I've seen people like that. Like after a few months, like they showed up to a Sunday service and they shared, and I'm like,
Mm,
I've never seen you before. Like, are you new? And they're like, no, I've been here for like 7 months,
yeah.
and I've been watching the replays, and like they I guess they needed that. And,
They needed that. And
yeah.
people don't stay in memberships if they don't use them one way or another. So
Mm,
like also it's important to be careful with the definition of what success looks like for a member, because maybe you need to understand
yeah,
that
that's
there
true.
are different people, different needs, and the
You
fact
know
that they
what?
stay is big, you know?
Yeah, there are some people in our community that are just like, I don't even know if they're like taking away the storytelling things or like that, but they love the community. They love going to small group meeting. They love like
Yeah.
the community aspect of it, just the people and just hanging out and like making friends. And I used to always like dismiss that. I'm like, like
Mhm.
the more important thing is you need to learn these things, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that very recently, like even as late as this early as this week, I'm starting to realize is that, well, actually, that's how those people are getting value out of it, and that's fine. Like even if they don't learn any storytelling or something like that, just the fact that they're part of the community and they enjoy being part of the community
Yeah.
is
Um,
already
do
a
you
value.
survey your community members?
Uh, I guess I no, not really.
I
I mean, I
I
listen to feedback
I'm
from my small group leaders, but yeah, I
no,
should.
so like I've learned so much. Like because it inspired. I've made major changes after receiving surveys. And sometimes it's not big because really most people are super happy. They love the membership, but like small comments. And I'm like, I've never, like I haven't thought about
What do
this.
you
And
ask
there's like
them?
um, sometimes like it depends. If now that we moved to a new platform, so we had a lot of questions related to platforms, but I try to keep it very simple. What do you love? What works for you? And what would you like to see more of? Sometimes it could be as simple as
And
that.
usually,
And
is it
then just
like a comment or is it like
written,
a multiple choice?
no comment. Like I don't like we did the multiple choice, like rate on a scale of 1 to 10. But that doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
if something is
I
not
agree.
working, I know it. If something is like people don't like a session, I know it. Like I don't need to survey
Yeah.
them. I see the attendance rate. Like I don't, so we've done it for a while, and then at some point I was like, I'm not doing anything with it. I want words. I want ideas because that sparks
It's like almost
ideas.
like a suggestion box or something. Like,
Yeah. But then we survey them once every 3 months. And then it's like, what do you love about the membership? What would you like to see more of? Um, if we have questions about specific sessions, we ask about them or but I'm fine with with just that sometimes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's really um since we moved, like the recent survey was humbling because it was, we switched to a different platform. So the new people, some people love it. And a lot of the members that, were used to something else, like they don't love it. And then it's hard to see it because I want to I want people to be happy.
Mm,
Um, but it gave me so many ideas on what I can do to improve. So I think you need to hear from them,
yeah.
and it might be surprising to you what they find value
Like
in.
now I
So that
hear it secondhand through the small group leaders. Like our small
but
group
that's the
leaders are,
story
yeah.
that they're
So I
it's
need to hear it
good.
directly from them.
Yes. Because also the group leaders, it's like, if I listen to experienced members or my team members, I always like know that there is the story they tell themselves, and whatever they report to me is going through the filter of their own
That's true.
personal story, you know?
Also,
So
I
I
feel
take
like
everything
I'm,
with a grain of salt.
yeah. I feel like there's a, you know, like I feel like the experience of somebody who's like a, like a hardcore fan or like somebody who's really in it is different from the
Hmm.
experience of somebody who's like a lurker. And like I need to hear from the lurkers. Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
the new members and things like that, not just the
Because
OGs.
right,
All the
because
OGs love everything.
exactly. And you want to improve, exactly. And you want to improve their experience. And the OGs, they don't know about the lurkers' experience.
Hmm, hmm.
They don't know what
Like
they
for
think or
example, like when I get rid of something because I feel like it's overwhelming, too much content, like that's what the new members need. Like the new members need to come and realize. But then when I do that, like the OG members will come and be like, "Oh, why did you get rid of that?" Like, and, do you know what I
mm,
mean? So there's a like they
yeah.
actually the OGs want more content because
Well,
they're
you
like,
could segment your content. So, for example, we do have
yeah,
Beyond members. We took out pronunciation work from Beyond because we have an entire pronunciation program. But that is different. But if people have taken this program before, and they're in Beyond, so they get additional classes and only they get access to it because it's kind of like a gift,
mm-hmm,
and I want to maintain it and I want to offer them some, and I also want to teach it, but I don't want it to overwhelm people who don't have
yeah,
that practice. So maybe you can segment, like
yeah,
create some
yeah, yeah.
sessions just for people who have been over a year, and then it's also like an incentive to stay.
Do you
You
ever
know,
get overwhelmed with all the different programs you're learning, running, and all the different parts?
with everything with life, yes. Oh my God. I just had, like, we've had, first of all, I relocated to a new country in
Oh yeah.
January. Since then, I'm
Uh-huh.
still catching up on life. Apart from that, since then, we had a community meetup. Then we created an app. So we redesigned our entire content of one of my memberships. We launched it. We launched a quiz. Like, I didn't rest for a minute. And then there was the summer. So, yes, overwhelm is I'm trying to control it. Like, I'm really trying to work on myself to see how I'm not affected or I'm not getting stressed by it. And also, I don't know if you feel it, but I do feel that something's changing in the industry and how people consume content, and I'm trying to learn that because there is
What
a
like
shift
in the content
outside.
creation? Because you're like two things,
Yeah.
right? You're number one, you're a content creator, and then you're
Hmm.
also an educator. So
Right.
I see that as two
Yeah.
two different things because there are content creators who are not educator, that are just influencers or something. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
which space are you talking about? The educator
The
space or
content. No, the
the content
content creator
creator?
space. Yeah, yeah. The
How
free
do you think
content.
is what do you feel? I mean, I do feel something's changing too, but
Yeah.
I want to
First
hear
of all, I
from.
think there's like some kind of exhaustion of the type of content that
Mm-mm-mm.
we've been
The same
seeing.
old, yeah.
I also think that there is like people go back to posts and carousels, shifting away from videos a little bit. I don't know. This is something new that I
On
noticed
Instagram.
on
Okay.
Instagram specifically. On YouTube, I feel like I don't know, something's happening and I don't know to put my finger on what that is because I have like a large platform and it's like a
I
hit or
feel
miss.
like it's less. It's becoming more narrow, like less about quantity and more about quality. Like,
Yeah.
because I feel
Yeah.
like for a while it's all about quantity, like post every day, blah blah blah, and also
Yeah.
even
Yeah. Yeah.
the number of creators, like with TikTok and everything. Like, there's so many creators,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like now it's starting to narrow down again, where like the ones that are not like I feel like the kind of mediocre ones are starting to drop out. I don't know if you
Yeah.
feel that, like, or they quit. Like during COVID, like especially in this
Yeah.
education space, like
Mhm.
everybody was a coach, right? Like there were, I feel like we had such an influx of like coaches and life coaches and like course creators, and
Yes.
like I just like it was like so overabundant. And then I feel like now a lot of the ones that I talk to now are starting to like quit, and then like
Mm.
few there's minority of them are staying in and they're thriving. So I like you, like, so I see a little bit of
Yeah.
that.
For me, like I want to do the content creation so that I could keep my job at like being an educator, because
Mhm.
that's where I thrive, And it does get very exhausting to keep doing the content creation, and I'm looking for different ways to bring people into my world, but not
Yeah, I
at
was gonna
such a high
ask you
price
that.
that I'm like just about that. Hmm.
So do you get more tired of content creation? Like, so you're more excited about the your course and like education stuff, and then
Yeah.
content creation is more like you have to do that so that you can you know
Yes.
so
Yeah.
you
So I
can
can.
reach people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and when it's hard, like when things, for example, now the past few weeks, like our reach has dropped, and I know it's temporary because it's always like that. There's a drop and then you go back up. Um, but then like there's like I do organic content. I also love sharing content with the world, but I really want people to be a part of my community. Like I really want them to
Mm.
experience that because I know it works. And but you have to continue doing that, and that could be very taxing. Now luckily I have a great team, and we all work together, and I get a lot. I wouldn't have been able to do all of that on my own for sure. um
How do you stay consistent, like with your content?
I just honestly, first, I love what I do. If it's about like really when I'm in my genius zone, I just like I enjoy doing it.
Mm.
um but also I just set goals that I can't that I have to that I'm committed to, you
Mm.
know?
So it's
And
like
like I
yeah, so
said,
you have those accountability. Yeah.
yeah, just
Like,
accountability. And if I say I'm going to do something and my team is expecting me to have a shooting day this weekend, for example, and I sometimes like I don't care about the content. I just don't want to disappoint
yeah.
my team
Yeah,
members,
you
and
almost like your
I end
team
up
has to be
frustrated.
almost like your boss. Like you're
They need
like
to hold me accountable, because if I don't
yeah.
do my work, that stresses them
Yeah.
out. They're going to have to
Yeah,
stress
yeah,
out
yeah.
about finding content later,
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yeah, I
But
agree
it
with that. It's not like you hire people and then like you just slack off. Like you actually, I feel like you have to set it up in a way that, like, because I'm like that for my team too. Like,
Mhm.
if you hire people, and if I'm not doing my part, then you're wasting their time, and like, therefore, then
Yes,
you're wasting your money because you're paying them.
exactly.
Like,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, okay, I'm just going to do it. But also I think that when I feel like I'm I'm burnt out, which is something that like I really work hard at imagining my vision. Like I think this is so
mm,
important, because it's so easy to be in the present and to always think, oh, this is not working, or this is so hard, or like that's so overwhelming. And then from that place to be like, oh, this is never going to work. So when that happens and I notice it, I have to take time and to visualize like, oh, this is what 2025 is going to look like. Like regardless of what's happening now, I'm not going to let how I feel right
how
now
often does that
dictate.
happen?
Recently, often, because it's been a really hard year. Like it's been very intense. Again, like I
Mm,
think the personal circumstances made a huge impact. Like it took
mm,
up a lot of my energy, so I wasn't left with a lot
mm.
of energy to run the business and to stay creative. But I also, I kept pushing myself at work, not taking into consideration that I'm one person, and so I think recently that happened more often. And also, like I said, like we've been seeing some changes and shifts in how people buy and how people watch, consume content. So I'm treating this as a learning year. And every time I feel a drop, I'm like, what can I learn from this? What can I change? What other program can I come up with? And that inspires me.
Yeah, it's funny how like from because like unless you like tell me that what you just told me right now, I would have no. I'm like, oh, Hadar's she's killing it. She's like having a
Mhm.
great like she's everything is like going perfect for her. And
Oh,
because like same thing happens to me too. Like I've been kind of struggling lately, and like I'm like, oh, I feel like nothing is working. And then but from the outsider, people are looking in. They think like I'm doing amazing, right?
yeah.
And sometimes I think we just need that reflection and be like, because sometimes like it's just a matter of like people outside just they don't see the struggles that I'm going through, like for me. But also sometimes it's just that I don't see that I'm doing actually pretty good. That like it's just compared to like my expectation or something like that. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm way off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And and this is why, like, on one hand, it's important to acknowledge what you have achieved and how amazing it is,
Yeah.
and at the same time be like, well, but I'm not going to settle, I'm not going to compromise my vision, I'm still going to have
Mm,
big goals for next year.
mm,
um so that's like finding that balance and acknowledging it, that it could make you feel a little disappointed. Like it's always that internal work of, okay, what is the story that I'm telling myself right now? Is everything and um it's quite a journey.
yeah. Yeah. For me,
Entrepreneurship.
it's the biggest thing. Like it's. I think my biggest fear and my biggest like you know trauma, if you can use that word, is like every time I see like how like my students are doing and things like that. Like I see that everything that they do as a reflection of like my program or my teaching.
Hmm.
So I do like I do beat myself up a lot because of that. I'm like, all of my students should be killing it right now. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So like that does make me overthink a lot, and it gets me to a point where I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't working. Maybe like maybe this is pointless. That type of thing.
I'm not sure if you're gonna like what I'm about to say. But I'll say it. um
Uh-oh.
I think I think it I know that you feel like, on one hand you feel responsible, but it's also like it's important to explore the ego here, because
Yeah, yeah. It's
just like
definitely
you feel
ego.
guilt, which is not healthy,
Yeah.
it's not helping you, because it's definitely not a productive energy. Also, when they do well, yes, it's you that created the circumstances, but also it's not you, it's them. So
Yeah,
at the end
yeah,
of the
yeah.
day, not that I think
No,
that
it
you
is
think
ego.
you.
It's and I know that it is. Like it you know what I mean? And that's what make but that's why I said it's like it's I think that's like my trigger or my
Hmm.
trauma is you know
And
what I mean?
I think once you get past it,
Mhm.
and this is why, like, you don't have, when you have expectations of someone, you're always going to be disappointed.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
it's just so. I once heard someone say,
Yeah, I almost
which,
have to let go of that. That like
yeah, instead of expectation,
yeah.
changes with appreciation. You're here, you're doing your best. You don't know their
And
story,
you know
you don't
what's so
know
funny?
what. Mm.
because this is like my second business, right? I've already like
Right.
I have an agency, which is like my first business. And the funniest thing is like all these lessons that I thought I learned building my agency,
Mm-hmm.
I'm re-going through all those same mistakes again. And
Mm.
like because it's slightly different, right? So
Yeah.
so I don't recognize that it's the same. It's actually the same mistakes that I made before that I'm making again. Because it was the same thing. Like with my agency, whenever a client has a bad, like bad sales or like their revenue that they don't hit their goals or what, like I used to like feel responsible for like, oh, that's my fault, or you know what I mean.
Mm.
And then I had
Well,
to like
maybe
learn
that's
to be
your
like,
lesson to learn. Maybe you got to change that already because it's not
yeah,
it's not helping you and it's not helping them. And it's not just for like for you to feel good. I do think that when this is where you're operating from, then it affects your
no,
ability to
that's what I
actually
mean. Like
yeah.
in my agency, like we didn't really start doing well until I let go of those things. So I in my agency
Mm,
I got to a point where I didn't feel responsible for my clients' business, or I didn't feel responsible if they do
yeah.
well or not.
Okay.
Like I just do my part and that was it, right? And I had to get there with my agency. But now that I'm starting this new business, I'm doing the same thing I used to do a long time ago at my agency. And I can see that now.
But
Yeah.
I think that now like the way to get to the other side is going to be a lot quicker because you've already
Yeah,
done
yeah,
it.
because it's the second time I'm experiencing
Exactly.
it.
And you know that it works.
Yeah, yeah,
And I do see why it would come up again because these are individuals and it's not the same as it is with companies. And I think
that's
that
true.
responsibility
Yeah,
is bigger in a way because you're also like, you have the biggest heart. So it's really not just ego. It's like you're
yeah,
you're genuinely interested in helping. And I think
yeah,
that's what triggers it. That and
yeah,
also like, like I want people to
yeah.
to
It's
benefit from it. Yeah.
yeah, it's so funny how like we have to relearn the same lessons in our like lives. I was just recently talking to somebody who was like talking about how he was talking to Magnus Carlsen, who's the best chess player in the world, and
Mhm.
he has been the best chess player in the world in the last 10 years. And he was talking about the most important lessons he's learned in the last 10 years, and I'm like, what?
Mm.
Like, what lessons have you learned as the best player in the world, right?
Mhm.
And he said the things that he was talking about were some really basic lessons, like cliches.
Mm.
And that's kind of how I feel. Like if I try to think about the most important lessons I've learned in the past year or 2 years,
Mhm.
they're like very basic cliche lessons that I ignored when I was young.
Like what?
Like for example, like the ego thing, right? Like
Mm.
or yeah, like for example, um, we one of the things that I'm learning in the past year is maybe something um like positive reinforcement
Mm.
rather than, because like I get when somebody tells a story in a certain way and I think that it can be improved, I immediately go to the things that, okay, like this could have been done like this could have been done like this, and my feeling is I need to point those things out, and that's how I can help
Mhm.
them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is, it to the person listening, it sounds like they're getting criticized.
Yeah.
So the next time they're not going to be they're going to be less likely to share, or do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mm.
So I need to really like focus on the positive reinforcement, and like sometimes like even if I do want to point something out, I have to hold myself back.
Yeah. And I think it's very true.
Uh-huh.
And I would also say that I think different people need different reinforcement because
That's
like I
true.
have the same thing with feedback that I give to my students in a coaching session. And some, like if I were to give them feedback
Some people
about,
want it straight up.
yeah,
Like,
some people like, don't butter me up. Don't tell me I
yeah.
sound great. Like I want to hear everything. And then like I get it. It's also a cultural thing. So I can kind of like also understand where this person is from and what they need, if they're more direct, more indirect. So I had to like I've learned it. But like some people would need the straight up feedback, or people who are like, no, that's not true, no, that's not true, like then I would be very,
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah, yeah.
straightforward and give them everything. And others, like they just need to be, you're doing, like, to hear you're doing amazing, the fact that you even opened your mouth is a huge thing,
Yeah.
which it is. And
But I
then
feel like that's most people. That
a lot of
the
people
second time, yeah.
a lot of people
And this is a lesson that I've learned from managing my designers and my developers in my
Mhm.
agency. Like it's something I had to learn over like time.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm Night Owl Nation, I'm relearning it because in my mind, I'm like, I'm a teacher. So they want me to point out the things that they did wrong. Like that that's how I'm giving them the most value. That's what I'm thinking, right? So that's what I do. And then now I'm realizing that, well, actually shit, no, it's the same thing. They don't most of them don't want that.
Dude, we gotta be like, we have to be so aware of our own stories all the time, like our own thinking, because it's it's not the, like, the neutral reality. It never is.
Yeah,
um
yeah,
and
yeah.
this is why I love looking at data. Like I'm not that much of a data person, but like I try to collect it as much as possible. So it's like the surveys and the and the show up rates and the churn rate. I we
How do you measure churn rate?
So the number of people leaving each month, I follow
But
like
you
the,
don't have new people coming in every month.
no, but
You,
like I want to make sure that people stay, right? So it's like two ways. First of all, the lifespan of a member, right? Like how many months they stay. If I were able to, if the average used to be
got it.
4
Yeah.
and now it's 7, that's one number that shows to me that, okay, they did receive value. And then another number is how many people quit each month. And for many,
Mhm.
for a while, for many years, we've been around like the 89%, 90%. And every time we made a change, we saw a slight increase and then it went back, which means that like if we had
So
100
you lose
members,
about 10% of the people
10% every
per
month.
month. Yeah.
And like the recent changes that we've made, which I'm very happy about, and like, and have put a lot of thought into it, like then we moved for the first time to like 95, 96% a month.
You
So
know,
like
like
4%
one thing
quit.
that I learned from about membership,
Hmm.
and I forgot where I heard this from, but one of the things I learned is like when you look at Netflix and all the subscription business,
Hmm.
there is something because like not all members are the same. So let's say you are losing 10% every month, but you're not bringing
Hmm.
in new people. What's happening is there are people who's just going to sign up 1 month and then quit right afterwards, and then there are people who's going to sign up and stay for years, right?
Right.
And the reason why you need to keep enrolling new people is because you're enrolling like let's say 1,000 people, not thinking like all thousand like 900 of them are going to stay. What's actually happening is you're filtering through the non-believers so that you
Yeah,
can
that's
find the
a
believers, and
really good,
ultimately,
such a good
yeah,
point. Yeah.
that's why you need to keep enrolling new people over and over and over, knowing that you're going to lose the non-believers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think what I like about live launches is that it does create like a real urgency, and it makes the onboarding experience a
Mm.
lot better. But at the same time, you're right. Like if you don't have capacity to do it every quarter, and also how, people get
Well,
tired of
live
you
launches, you're going to
promoting.
get more signups actually through. If you have like open enrollment,
Hmm.
I guarantee you're going to get less signups
I know, I
than
know.
do.
I
Oh, okay,
even
okay.
launching twice a year. No, no, no. I know this is why we
uh,
do it. So because of that, we get, hundreds of people each time. Um, but at the same time, like, you have to build it into your promotional calendar and make sure that you launch regularly.
yeah.
and not caught up doing other things. And
Yeah,
then,
that's one thing that I noticed is that once I opened it up, open enrollment, we're getting a lot less because like they can join whenever they want. So that now I'm gonna try something new starting next month actually.
mm-hmm.
So so I'll try this and I'll let you know how it goes. But
Okay.
we're gonna open up the first Sunday service of every month to the public.
Hmm.
So and we're gonna serve that almost as our live webinar. Like
Ah,
so you
that's a
come
good
experience our Sunday service, see,
idea.
and then like in there we'll do a breakout. Remember I told you we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
break
yeah.
out
Can
rooms so that they
experience
can kind of
that.
get a feel for what small group is
Hmm.
like. And then we're gonna open up registration just for that 1 week and then close it at the end of that week. And then
Nice.
like the first week of next month do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how that goes.
That's a good idea because like you still create some kind of scarcity. Okay, you have to decide now. If not, you have to wait until next month.
Yeah.
I like that. I like
And
that.
what we're really trying to sell now is the concept of not like you're gonna come here and you're gonna learn all these secret things like that, but come to the Sunday service, experience what that community is like, so you get a feel for what the community and
Yeah.
the small group feels like, and then if you like that, then because like I really think that like 80% of what we're selling is the small
Hmm.
group. It's
Mm.
that's really
That's
the
the
thing.
that's
Yeah,
the essence of the membership. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm sure it's similar with you, right? Like I'm sure like the community and the practice aspect of it
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
probably the same. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like absolutely. And I think that's what keeps them because at some point, like you don't want to be left out of something that feels like home or, you don't want to leave it. So the question
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
how do we get them to feel like they belong?
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, I'll say this: like, at some point, maybe we can talk again about like the changes that you're thinking about, like the change that you're seeing in the content creation
Hmm.
space. But just from like an outsider looking in, I think you're, I think you're doing amazing. Like, I mean, yeah, like that's how it looks from the outside. Everything looks like you're killing it. You're doing amazing. I have so much faith in you that
Mm,
everything you
yeah.
do, like somehow you always figure it out, and you always like
That I do. Like I have to. And I enjoy the challenges because I enjoy solving problems, or like, oh, okay, this is not working. What do we do? And yeah, thank you. It's, I'm very grateful, and I still like we have amazing students and I'm very, very grateful. And I think that the more you are in business, like you have bigger goals and then sometimes life
yeah,
don't allow you to do it because you need to rest, which is this year for me. Um, but again, like it's really just an opportunity to recharge and then
yeah.
set big
And
goals
I
for
love hearing from like
Mhm.
your tips and things like that, because it's like you know it's it's one thing to hear from people who are not in, like you're like the person that's actually in it and you're managing these communities, and you're you have a sizable audience and things like that, so it's like really helpful to get like an insider uh
Yeah, it
look.
was such a great conversation. So
Yeah,
much fun, like because we're both facing the same challenges and experiences. So it was really good.
thank you, Hadar. I'm gonna
Thank
put
you,
all your links
son.
and
Of
everything.
course.
So good to see you. We'll catch up, and then like I'll hopefully next time I'm in Europe, we'll stop by Spain
Yes,
and spend some
please.
time together.
Yes. Thank you so much for this conversation, for all the work that you do. And, you know, I
Always a
really,
pleasure.
really appreciate you and love you.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers. Cheers,
you.
everyone.